You eat dark chocolate thinking you're doing something good for your body. Meanwhile, two invisible metals are slowly building up inside your kidneys and your brain. Not in cheap candy bars, in the brands you know, the ones you've been buying for years. Today, we're putting the data on the table, and it might completely change the way you shop for chocolate. Consumer Reports tested dozens of dark chocolate bars in independent labs. The results, published in 2022, triggered lawsuits, international headlines, and a whole lot of silence from major chocolate companies. What they found: lead and cadmium levels exceeding California safety limits, sometimes by more than 265%, in brands that are probably sitting in your kitchen right now. But before I tell you which ones, you need to understand why these two metals are different from almost everything else you eat. Because this isn't like sugar. Your body doesn't just flush it out. And what these metals can do over 10 years of regular exposure is something almost nobody explains clearly. I'm Flory. On this channel, we break down the biggest food and health questions using real science, explained simply, without fear-mongering and without trying to sell you anything. If that's your kind of content, hit subscribe. Now let's understand what we're actually dealing with. Lead. Why is it in chocolate? Because it settles onto cacao beans during drying and fermentation, from soil, dust, and in some regions, even fuel emissions from agricultural equipment. And once it's there, roasting doesn't remove it. Inside your body, lead does something especially dangerous. It mimics calcium. Your body can't really tell the difference, so it sends lead to the same places calcium normally goes: your bones, your brain, your kidneys, using the exact same biological transport systems. In bones, lead can remain stored for decades. In the brain, it interferes with communication between neurons by disrupting NMDA receptors, which are critical for learning and memory. In the kidneys, it slowly damages the filtration cells responsible for cleaning your blood. And here's the part that worries toxicologists the most. According to the WHO, there is no recognized safe level of chronic lead exposure, no threshold below which long-term exposure is considered harmless. Every exposure adds up. If someone eats contaminated dark chocolate regularly for years, that accumulation can eventually become clinically significant, even if they feel completely normal the entire time. Cadmium is different. Unlike lead, cadmium comes directly from the soil itself. Cacao trees, especially those grown in parts of Latin America and West Africa, naturally absorb cadmium through their roots. And the higher the cacao percentage, the more concentrated the cadmium tends to be. That's why an 85% dark chocolate bar often contains significantly more cadmium than a 50% bar. Once inside the body, cadmium follows a very specific path. It targets the kidneys, especially microscopic structures called proximal tubules, which handle the fine filtration of your blood. Cadmium accumulates there over time, disrupts cellular function, and can lead to chronic nephrotoxicity, a slow, silent decline in kidney function. It also interferes with zinc and calcium metabolism. Because cadmium imitates these essential minerals, it competes for the same cellular receptors. The result can be functional zinc deficiency, affecting immunity and wound healing, even when blood tests still look normal. And here's the truly unsettling part. The half-life of cadmium inside the human body is estimated between 10 and 30 years. That's not a typo. Your body may still carry part of the cadmium you consume today, decades from now. So now you understand why these lab results matter. Let's talk about the brands and the numbers attached to them, because some of these results are honestly surprising. The red group, brands to avoid. Let's group the brands by contamination level. Critical level, extremely high lead. Hershey's ranked among the worst, reaching 265% of California's maximum allowable lead level in a single serving, meaning before you even count the rest of your daily exposure. One serving already puts you at more than 2.5 times the recommended limit. Trader Joe's tested high in both metals at the same time, 229% of the cadmium limit, and 127% of the lead limit in one of their 85% bars. That combination is what makes it especially concerning. Lindt Excellence. 85% reached 166% of the lead limit. Their 70% bar tested at 116% for cadmium. Switching between the two doesn't reduce exposure. It just alternates which metal you're getting more of. Chocolove 88% hit 240% of the lead limit, with their 70% version still testing high at 152%. And Godiva 72% dark came in at 146% for lead. Despite its premium Belgian image, even though the company later faced legal action over misleading manufacturing claims tied to production in Pennsylvania. But what about the brands people assume are cleaner? The organic brands, the ethical brands, the minimalist brands. Some of them do better with heavy metals, but they come with other issues you should still know about. The Orange Group, different problems. Tony's Chocolonely is probably one of the most ethical chocolate companies in the industry. Fair pay, supply chain transparency, real documented efforts against child labor. But ethics don't remove cadmium from soil. Some tests still found elevated cadmium levels in bars above 70% cacao. Good company, real chemical blind spot. Whole Foods. 365 looks reassuring because of the organic label, but organic doesn't mean tested for heavy metals. Independent testing in 2025 reportedly detected lead, cadmium, and arsenic in some cacao products. The company also faced legal complaints over chocolate-coated products marketed in ways consumers found misleading. Nestlé has a double problem: heavy metal concerns in some dark chocolate products, and recipe changes as cocoa prices continue to rise, meaning less real cacao and more sugar or vegetable fats. The company also continues to face criticism over sourcing practices linked to child labor in West Africa, despite years of reform promises. Feastables markets itself as simple and clean, but there is very little publicly available data about heavy metal testing. And when companies don't publish testing results, silence is not proof of purity. Russell Stover and Cadbury have a different issue altogether: formulation quality. Russell Stover has used hydrogenated oils and artificial flavoring and faced recalls tied to undeclared allergens. Cadbury changed significantly after the Kraft acquisition. Lower cacao content in some products, palm oil in certain recipes, and multiple contamination controversies over the years. The branding stayed nostalgic. The ingredients changed. Reese's also faced criticism after members of the founder's family publicly accused the company of quietly replacing real chocolate and peanut butter in seasonal products with cheaper reformulated fillings and coatings. And then there's Palmer. National recalls, FDA Class 1 contamination warnings. Products made mostly with vegetable oils and sugar instead of real chocolate. That's one you should simply leave on the shelf. Now here's the part most people never hear. Dark chocolate actually does have legitimate, scientifically documented health benefits. The key is getting those benefits without the heavy metals. So here are 4 brands that stand out for the right reasons, and the science behind why real cacao can genuinely help your body. The science of good chocolate. Before we name the brands, let's understand what quality cacao actually does. Cocoa flavanols, especially epicatechin, stimulate nitric oxide production inside the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels. Nitric oxide causes vasodilation. Your blood vessels relax and widen. The measurable result, regular moderate dark chocolate consumption, has been associated with reductions of around 2 to 3 millimeters of mercury in systolic blood pressure. That may sound small, but physiologically, that's meaningful. Cocoa polyphenols also help suppress inflammatory pathways, especially NF-κB, one of the molecular switches involved in chronic low-grade inflammation linked to aging and cardiovascular disease. Cacao is also naturally rich in magnesium, and unlike cheap magnesium oxide supplements, The magnesium in cacao comes packaged in a natural food matrix that improves absorption and biological use. Magnesium supports more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including nerve regulation, muscle contraction, and cellular energy production. Then there's cocoa butter itself. It contains stearic acid, a saturated fat that's metabolized differently from most others and can partially convert into oleic acid, the same heart-friendly fat found in olive oil, without negatively impacting LDL cholesterol. But here's the important part. You only get these benefits from real chocolate, high cacao content, minimal processing, real cocoa butter, no cheap vegetable oil replacements. So let's talk about the brands doing it right. The Green Group, 4 better options. Ghirardelli. Their intense dark 72% and 86% bars tested well below California limits for both lead and cadmium in independent testing. This is the accessible option, easy to find, reasonably priced, real cocoa ingredients, real cocoa butter. A strong balance between safety, quality, and availability. Valrhona, this is professional-grade couverture chocolate used in high-end kitchens. Higher cocoa butter content gives it that clean melt instead of the waxy texture found in cheaper bars. They're B Corp certified with detailed traceability by cacao origin, and the higher cocoa butter content may also improve absorption of fat-soluble cocoa compounds like flavanols. Taza chocolate stone ground at low temperature. That detail matters. Industrial high-heat processing can degrade flavanols. Taza preserves more of them by keeping processing temperatures lower. USDA organic, fair trade, direct sourcing, and the ingredient list is almost absurdly simple. Cacao and sugar, that's it. The gritty texture isn't a flaw. It's proof the chocolate was minimally processed, massed organic. One of the lowest lead readings ever documented in a high cacao chocolate bar. And unusually low cadmium levels too, which is rare for 80% cacao. Just 4 ingredients: organic cacao, cocoa butter, cane sugar, vanilla, full bean-to-bar control. This is where you get the cardiovascular, anti-inflammatory, and mineral benefits of dark chocolate without paying the biological price of excessive heavy metal exposure. So here's the bottom line. Dark chocolate is not automatically healthy or unhealthy. It depends entirely on what's actually inside it, how it was grown, processed, sourced, and tested. Lead accumulates in bones and interferes with the brain by mimicking calcium. Cadmium settles into the kidneys for decades by mimicking zinc. Both can build up silently over time. And the beneficial compounds in cacao, the flavanols that support blood vessels, reduce inflammation, and contribute to nervous system function, only exist in meaningful amounts in minimally processed, real chocolate. 3 habits to adopt immediately. First, always read the ingredient label. If you see chocolatey coating or vegetable oils replacing cocoa butter, put it back. Second, higher cacao percentage does not automatically mean safer. An 85% bar can contain more heavy metals than a 72% bar, depending on where the beans came from. And third, trust brands that publish testing data. Transparency matters. If this video taught you something new, share it. Because millions of people eat dark chocolate every day, believing they're making a healthy choice. Some of them are. A lot of them aren't. Now you know the difference. Subscribe for more science-based breakdowns on what we really eat every day. Read the labels, know your sources, and never trust the packaging until you've checked what's actually inside. Stay informed, stay healthy.